Alrighty, welcome warriors, and here we go with my first set of notes for this new iPad, new Dosery. I've done this before with other programs, but this is the first time I've done this with the newer iPad, and we'll see how this works with this cover and everything. Hopefully, y'all are hearing me quite well. Anyways, so what we're going to do is cover interval notation. This is our introduction to being able to take notes on the video. You can pause, you can stop, you can rewind me anytime. Please just don't mute me because you never know when I might sneak in something that you might need to hear. And so, hey, sometimes I'm talking and I may not necessarily write everything that I need to put in there. So anyways, what is interval notation? What are we talking about here? Really, what we're talking about is this. Let me put it like this. So we've got the words, numbers between, like any set of numbers between 1 and 4. And really, I should be saying any set of numbers between, because it's a set. And that's kind of an important thing to be talking about, even though I didn't write it there. And I can represent that set of data with a number line, which is shown here, an inequality, which is shown here, and interval notation, which is shown on the bottom. I'm saying shown here, like y'all can see what I'm pointing at. So number line, inequality, interval notation. Now, what is special about interval notation? Interval notation is basically just a way of defining the endpoints. It's kind of a shorthand way of an inequality. That's really what it is. If you look at this, the main difference between these two is that this is taken out. And I put in some parentheses to represent some things. So it's kind of more of a shorthand thing. So kind of go with that. Okay, so basically what you see here is kind of like something to make sure you copy down, but it would be letting you know, like, inequalities, depending on the type of inequality you're seeing, which type of endpoint you should be using, and which type of interval notation you should be using, and kind of vice versa. So kind of keep that in mind. So let's look at an example. So here we have a number line, and we see that the endpoints are -3 and +4. So by an inequality, we would say that x is between -3 and +4. But for the interval notation, we've got a -3 and a +4. Notice that the end numbers here are the end numbers here. And open dot, parentheses, close dot, brackets. So kind of keep that in mind, and that should kind of help you with that. So here, what happens here? Well, if you see this, and I'm kind of backing this up a little bit, this is going all the way to the left, which means it's going off to -infinity. So keep in mind that -infinity is on our left, and +infinity is on our right. Every single time you put an infinity, it's always going to have a parentheses next to it. Now the 2 has a closed dot, so that means it's going to have a bracket. So keep in mind, next to a parentheses, it's always going to be parentheses. Or next to infinity symbol, it's always going to be parentheses. So there you go. Okay, so now we can see another example here. We're going to +infinity. You can see how, oopsie. And you can see how I did +infinity. It's going off to the right here, so that's going to +infinity. Notice every single time you are always going to have, now I'm going to make a new slide here, you're always going to have like -infinity and a number, or you could have a number and +infinity. Keep in mind that there will always be parentheses next to those, and the thing would be for, the brackets would be for later. Okay, so you can kind of see how this works, and you can see a few more examples here, and kind of go from there. Now, if I saw something like this, and just in case you have an inequality, let's say you have an inequality and they tell you x greater than equal to -5. Okay, what I have a tendency to do is first graph this, do the inequality first. So I've got -5 here. I've got a closed dot. The arrow points to the right, so I'm going to shade to the right. And this means it's going to +infinity. So then I can do the interval notation negative 5, positive infinity, put a parentheses, close dot, means I'm going to put a bracket. And kind of go from there. I know there were some examples where they showed you something like this. Let's do like something like this. Let's do going this way, and we'll say negative 4, and we'll do here 2. Let's make that one an open dot. Open dot. It's more fun when you have sound effects. Just to let you know. Anyways, so we can do this. This right here, treat these as like two separate problems. So think of that as like two separate problems. This one says this is going to negative infinity. This is going to positive infinity. So we can do, for interval notation, we can put negative infinity, comma negative 4, parentheses and a bracket, because again, parentheses and bracket with a closed dot. Or, notice there's an or between those, to positive infinity. Both of those will be in parentheses. Then, when we do the inequality, it is, you have a couple of choices that you can do this in. Okay? For the inequalities, you can say, this is what I would prefer, negative infinity, x, negative 4, line underneath because of the bracket, or 2, x, infinity, and be done with it. It is possible that when you do it like this, if you want to, you can say, I'll draw a line through this, you could do it as x less than or equal to negative 4, notice how it still points towards the x, or x greater than 2. Notice how I've got this, wherever the arrow is pointing to, it is still pointing to that specific thing. Like this one's pointing to the 2, this one's pointing to the x, and so I still have them like that. But this allows me to drop the infinity symbol. But I would be okay with either one of those. Anyways, that's it for our first video. I hope I didn't bore you too much and kind of made things interesting, but there you go. If you do have any questions, feel free to make sure that you make note of them, and be happy to answer those questions later on. Anyways, that's it for now. Thank you very much, and let's have a great year.